Wow, stories.
My husband and I have been married for 10 years, together for 13. We've known each other since we were teenagers. I've always considered myself a feminist and pushed back against traditional gender norms and archaic male-female power dynamics. I am a girl's girl, I support women, and I am raising my daughters to believe they are equal in a society that often tries to control their bodies or future. My husband has said he is an ally and supports women as well. Over the years, I have noticed my husband explaining things to me in a condescending manner more often. I appreciate when he helps me understand a concept I don't, like anything having to do with car maintenance, but don't appreciate when he tries to tell me how to do something I am well versed in. I don't always call him out on this, but I have snapped at him about it in the past. A few days ago, I was pretty hurt when I tried to offer a solution to a problem, and my husband didn't believe me. A minute later, a male family member offered the same solution, and my husband believed him. I told my husband my feelings were really hurt. I tried to explain that I didn't think what he did was intentional or out of spite, but more so something ingrained in him by society. This resulted in an argument where he told me I was too much of a feminist and hate all men, and should know that he is my ally and not take it personally when he explains things to me in a condescending manner or takes someone else's suggestion over mine. He yelled, I cried. He also told me he would never explain anything to me ever again, and I could figure out things all on my own since I am such a strong woman. It felt like he was throwing a tantrum. We haven't talked about it much since, but I did tell him today we need to have a longer conversation. I feel like he isn't an ally, and I'm starting to wonder if he's been all talk about supporting women and being a feminist himself, since he often isn't supportive of me. I am not sure how to move forward or how to approach a conversation with him. Part of me feels like he wants to be a feminist, but not when he is challenged or called out. I am not sure where to go from here, and all suggestions are welcome. Now for an update. I am very thankful for the advice and insight. What stuck with me most were the suggestions to take the isms out of the conversation and focus on the communication issue. I did just that, and the conversation went better than expected. Obviously, we have work to do on how we communicate, specifically me not jumping to conclusions and him not throwing a tantrum. But I'm optimistic. For those who like specifics, my husband is indeed an over-explainer, and I think he doesn't see it as explaining things to me in a condescending manner, but more so, giving his input. He also told me that he often feels like I look for the negative in him because he is a man forgetting all the positive, which there has been a lot. I explain that when he yells and throws a tantrum, it makes me feel like my feelings are invalid. We are both a work in progress. I have spent most of my life afraid to stand up to men. Over the last year, I have decided to stop the silence and call out the unacceptable behavior. I do believe my husband is struggling with this, as he is the closest man to me and often hears it the most. The fight stemmed from me telling my husband there was a driveway near a bathroom we should pull into when we were on a day trip and he was driving. He didn't believe me. When the male relative told him there was indeed a driveway, he believed him. On the surface, it was silly to fight about, but this isn't the first time he has listened to a man over me. When we spoke today, he said it wasn't that he didn't believe me, but that the way I described it was confusing. And some of you are a riot with these comments. I don't know, wanting equal treatment doesn't seem like a political issue to me, nor does it warrant suggesting I should date women. But this is Reddit, and I guess I shouldn't have expected anything less. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He told me I was too much of a feminist and hate all men, and should know that he is my ally and not take it personally when he mansplains or takes someone else's suggestion over mine. Did you point out that the issue was that he took the same suggestion you made, but only when it was offered by a man? How does he justify that? If he were actually an ally, he'd be willing to reflect on his internal biases, which we all have, and accept that there are some behaviors he may need to change. It sounds like he supports women until he's actually challenged to provide that support, at which point he gets offended and lashes out. He's made it clear what he really thinks of feminism and your beliefs in general. I don't know how you move forward from here unless he's willing to admit that he has things to learn. Can I ask, how has he demonstrated with actions in the past that he is supportive of feminism? Comment 2. What does he mean by tone it down? Nothing you said or did here would make me think that you're overbearing with your beliefs. Even though these beliefs are rooted in basic human empathy and respect for women, so you should be as overbearing as possible. A lot of men have a difficult time accepting authority from a woman, regardless of what they say or believe. It is habitual for them to resist it. To my knowledge, you tried explaining this to him, and his reaction was just immature. How can someone be too much of a feminist? It just doesn't make sense. Sounds like resentment. And by the way, he did throw a tantrum because you called him out. Now, for the update. 2 weeks after the last convo with her husband, I noticed he still used that condescending tone we talked about. Not gonna lie, it was like he couldn't help himself. You know how when you try to stop eating junk food, but then someone puts a pizza in front of you and you're just like, well, I guess I'm having a slice? Yeah, it was kind of like that, but for his tone. So, we had this family dinner at my parents' place to celebrate my dad's birthday. My brother Mark was in town with his new girlfriend, Clara. This was her first time meeting the family, so naturally, we all put on our best faces and tried to act like we weren't just arguing in the car on the way over. During dinner, Mark made a joke about how Clara could easily handle my dad's dad jokes. Honestly, we were all just relieved someone else was on the receiving end of those cringy one-liners for once. Everyone laughed, including my husband, which was a nice change of pace. Then, while I was talking about this school project our daughters were working on, my husband interrupted me. Like, dude, come on. I mean, he said something like, you know how kids are, and explained something I'd already mentioned. I looked around the table, and my mom was giving me that look. You know the one. The look that says, I'm not going to say anything now, but you know I noticed. After dinner, we moved to the living room for dessert. The atmosphere was different, though. You could kind of feel the love, but also that awkwardness sitting in the corner like the weird uncle that nobody wants to talk to. My husband and Mark started chatting about sports, and I felt like I was at a concert where you can't see the stage. I tried to join in, but my husband just brushed me off with a dismissive wave. Clara, bless her heart, saw how uncomfortable I was and tried to change the subject by asking me about my job. I could tell she was trying to lighten the mood, and honestly, I appreciated it. After dessert, I needed a break from the awkwardness, so I excused myself to help my mom in the kitchen. While we were washing dishes, my mom brought up my communication issues with my husband. I kinda wanted to dodge the topic, so I said we were working on things. But my mom was like, nope, not letting you off that easy, and insisted on sharing her observations. She said she noticed how my husband often cut me off during conversations. Then my mom just kept going. She said she'd noticed it for a while now, even before I brought it up. You know when someone says something nice about you, and you're like, thanks, but you're also kinda embarrassed? That was me. I was just standing there, nodding, and trying not to blush from all the praise. As we were finishing up, my husband came into the kitchen and tried to joke about needing help with the dishes. He had that frown on his face like he just bit into a lemon or something. He made the joke, and when neither my mom nor I laughed, he just walked away. Later that evening, we went home, and he asked if I was upset about something. I was like, nope, everything's fine, but we both knew that was a lie. A few days later, we had a small gathering with friends. We were trying to keep things light and not dwell on our issues. During the event, I was giving a toast, and my husband spoke over me again. I swear this was becoming a pattern. One of my friends noticed the dynamic and subtly asked if everything was all right between us. I just gave her the classic, I'm fine smile. After the gathering, my husband wanted to talk about what happened during the toast. He seemed genuinely confused about why I was upset, which led to another one of our conversations. We both agreed to be more mindful of how we communicate. The following week, we went to a wedding together. It was like a test to see if we could handle being around other people without any drama. During the reception, a guest brought up my husband's job. He quickly cut her off to explain his point, and I just sat there, rolling my eyes so hard I thought I'd see my brain. I mean, come on. It's like we were in a sitcom where all the problems get resolved in 30 minutes, but we're still stuck in the 15-minute mark. After the wedding, my husband asked what was bothering me, and I decided to be honest. I told him I felt like he was still using that condescending tone, and it made me feel small. I mean, can you blame me? He was acting like he was the main character in a movie, and I was just the background actor. He apologized and said he'd try to do better. Edit. During our restaurant date, we talked about our communication issues again. He admitted he hadn't realized how often he cut me off and used a condescending tone. He also mentioned seeing a therapist for his anger issues, which surprised me. I asked why he hadn't told me, and he said he wanted to handle it alone first. He's been working on his anger, and though it's a slow process, I see some improvement. We're both committed to making this work and being more supportive of each other.